Okay. Ooh, I'm a little off balance. Is it more like that? No, it's more like that. No, I think I'm gonna keep it right there. All right. Welcome everybody. Hopefully you're having yourself a good evening. We're gonna have a nice chill time tonight. It's a special one tonight. It's a special one tonight. It is my 10K celebration. I'm pretty stoked, pretty excited about this. 10,000 subscribers. Woo, we did it! Yeah, that's my fireworks. That's really kind of crazy and weird. But thank you everybody for making that possible and making that thing. We're going to do a Q&A. So I'm not going to be listening. Well, I mean, I am going to be listening to an album as it is January the 1st. I am listening to some Christmas music. I hope that's okay. We're listening to some Mannheim Steamroller. I fell in love with them with their Fresh Air series. And that's kind of my go-to introductory music. Whenever I start these live streams, I'm usually streaming Fresh Air 3 or 4, because those are my two favorites. So I figured tonight we're gonna go through. We'll probably spend about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, if we've got enough conversation, maybe even 2 hours, and just kind of answer some questions, listen to some Fresh Air, Mannheim Steamroller, some Christmas music. I hope that's alright for everybody. And I see an Excellent Egg is in. Hello, an Excellent Egg. Thank you so much for the congratulations. I know, 10,000 subscribers. It's crazy. Yeah, so, yep, this is a audience-led Q&A. I was hoping for a little bit more interaction on the Twitterverse. I didn't get any questions coming in through those. So if we ever get into a lull, I'll have to improvise a conversation with myself, which I'm sure will be great content driving right there. Yeah, that'll be fun. And yeah, it's gonna be a low key evening. It's just gonna be at least evening from where I'm at. If you are watching the recording, it could be in the middle of the day, it could be in the middle of the night. Who knows? But for where I am sitting right now, it's the evening, so it's gonna be a good evening. And yeah, 10,000, woo! As I did at the beginning, those are the fireworks. So yeah, I'm excited. So drop in those questions. Anything you want to know, anything you want me to talk about, any hot takes, spicy opinions, anything like that, drop those down into the chat. And I think as I'm waiting for some questions to kind of drive up, I'm going to pump my social media and all the good stuff. So all that is linked down below in the description. If you want to subscribe to boost those numbers even higher, because who knows what I'll be doing if I ever reach 100,000. You can also donate to my Patreon, which is really means a lot. It's helping me kind of build this into something else. It's really helping me out currently in my life. Don't want to get too into it, but really is helping to offset some really difficult times. So very humble and thankful of all that. So if you want to do that, drop it down into that their Patreon. I'm actually going to be in the new year changing the Patreon system. I think I'm going to have like a donate area, maybe with PayPal or something like that. I need to do some research into that. That's going to be like a Christmas thing for me, is to kind of research that, and then change around the tiers that I have right now, because right now if you donate anything $1, I believe you'll get a shout out. $3 gets you a live stream, $5 gets you a live stream and an album review, and then $10 I think gets you a live stream and 3 album reviews. $15 gets you a live stream, 3 album reviews, and a playlist, and then $20 gets you all of that great stuff, as well as a worst to best video. And somebody has already given me one of those way back in the spring, and I am a horrible person and I haven't gotten to them because the band that they've given me it's weird. I haven't really been in the mood to listen to, and I really need to be in the mood if I want to like really devote my time to that. So wow, I know this is just great content, eh? So I'm going to reach out to them and let them know that's going to be coming probably mid to 2020 as I tackle the next artist that I want to do first, just because I'm in the mood to tackle that. So yeah, while I'm talking about my patrons, I'm actually going to shout them out because really they're part of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. Jeffrey, you're the one that is going to be forefront today only because I haven't changed it from my last live stream. I haven't received any other patrons between then and now. So hey, look, you're up there because I haven't had to change the graphic. So thank you, Jeffrey, as well. Thank you, Matthew, Aiden, Andreas, Austin, Isaac, and Spinobi. Actually, Isaac / Spinobi has 2 live streams coming up very soon. One probably in and around the holiday season when I have a little bit more time to work with. I've got like a 4-hour playlist that he's constructing, which I'm very excited to actually get into, as well as an album. I believe it's his own album. Correct me if I'm wrong, Isaac or Spinobi. So I'm pretty excited to dive into that. Continuing with my patrons, Rick, Kevin, Ted, Bryson, Hemulin, Chris H, Joggin Chum, GRV Rush 2112, which I always love saying because I know he's been here since practically the beginning. I think he was one of the first real individuals that would comment on my videos. So a very big thank you to him. Joseph, Charles, Brian, Mark Foy, and I believe, yeah, it was Mark that had done the album of The Lonely Swing. So again, I'm going to pump that one. I'm going to shout that out. The Lonely Swing by Mark Foy. Go and check it out. It's a good time. Brian, Kevin, and Axel. So thank you to all of my patrons. It really, really does mean a lot. And if you want to donate, I've got the link down below. And as I mentioned, in the new year, I'm going to be switching it around a little bit, making it easier and a little bit easier for me and easier for you, for everybody. So if you want to donate now, might be a good time before I raise the rent, as I kind of go about politely saying that. I've been given a lot of Patreon album reviews that I haven't gotten to because I'm, again, a horrible person. But I think if I raise the rate, it'll help me digest them. And I'm thinking about doing like quickie videos, as some of my contemporaries are doing, but I will still give full-length album reviews for a little bit of a higher rate. I'm thinking probably $10 to $15 for a full-length album review, and then keeping the $5 for like a quickie. This way it relieves a little bit of the pressure that I've put upon myself. And my girlfriend just gave me a text, so that's what you just kind of heard. So just give me a second as I text her back, because this is kind of important. If anybody is out there and is doing that kind of stuff, yeah. Just live streaming at the moment. Okay. So yeah, that's all that I'm going to say about that. I'm going to drop this down so you can see the moneymaker, the good stuff here. I'm going to pop back right into the chat to see what we've got, because hopefully I've got some good questions coming on here. Again, thank you so much. Huzzah, yay, 10,000, or yeah, 10,000. Oh, I almost corrected myself. I'm like, it can't be 10,000. That's way too much. But no, 10,000. That's great. That's great. Okay, so drop in those questions. I'm going to start getting to them. I only had a couple responses on Twitter. And I really didn't have too much to say because most of them were just like, I don't really know too much. So I will get to those if I ever run into a lull. So let me see here. So Cody Taylor, welcome Cody. Thank you so much. Oh, I also have like that super chat. So give that a try because I had a super chat last time. That's one surefire way. I always do my very best to make sure that I get to all the questions that are coming through. But if you want a surefire way to make sure that your question is considered, and I would spend a lot more time with it because you actually gave me money to do so, yeah, try out that super chat. Super chat. There we go. All right, so first question I had from Cody Taylor. Have I gone back into any of the Ocean's old work? I have not. This year has been extremely busy for myself, so I have not had time to really go back and listen to any of those other artists that I was introduced to. I think the Ocean would be one of those artists that I would love to revisit some of their older work, just because of how much I really did love Oh shoot, what was it? Whatever that Oceans, was it Images? No, that wasn't right. Somebody tell me what album that was that I listened to, because I really liked it. I actually listened to that album a couple more times throughout the year after I listened to it, because that was fantastic. Let's see here, Travis. I know you sent me a question. That's one of the questions that I'll get to if I get to a lull. So we'll see if I get to that. Ian is saying, do I have plans to do another Rush album review? Most likely. I know with my worst to best, even though it has been my longest, I think it was twice as long as most of my worst to bests. I still want to talk about some of their albums because I still really, really enjoy Rush. I want to do like a full-length album review of like Farewell to Kings, because that's one of my favorite albums of theirs. I already feel like I already gave Permanent Waves a really good kind of send-off when I did the live stream review of that. So I'm really kind of excited to, go a little bed more deeper into their discography and talked about that. So yeah. Is it Sid or Ked? C-E-D. Can I do a King Crimson album rank? I mean, so I've been... I guess this is a good time to kind of talk about that. I think this is a good time to talk about this. I know I've kind of hinted in the past I would never do a King Crimson worst to best, and I'm still kind of in that boat. I mean, who knows what the future's going to hold for me and King Crimson. I feel like that's like a Herculean labor to try to rank King Crimson's albums. Only because the work that they put out in the 70s is so ridiculously diverse and different. Now, I mean, it could be argued that like Starless and Bible Black, as well as Lark's Tongue and Aspect, are similar and linked. All their other albums, and I guess also In the Court of the Crimson King and In the Wake of Poseidon, are also kind of linked a little bit. All their other albums released in the 70s are incredibly, incredibly different, and trying to rank them and put one over another is almost futile, because that's like, it's almost like a completely different band. Like, unlike Yes, which did go through quite a number of personnel changes, King Crimson essentially reinvented themselves each time they put out an album, except for the ones that I've already mentioned, specifically in the 70s. And then once you come into the 80s, you've got the Three of a Perfect Pair suites, right? You got Discipline, you've got Beat, and you've got the Three of a Perfect Pair. And so those are kind of like a threefold album. And how do you like untangle those three from one another, if you know what I mean, right? So kind of like even putting those three into the fold, do you keep them as a trilogy, or do you rank them individually? And kind of, you can't really untangle those. And then you come into the whole 90s with the projects, which are, what do you include in that? Do you include projects 1 through 5 or 6? Do you include, like, I would definitely include like Construction of Light, but like all those projects that were going on. And then once you get from Thark or Tark, I always pronounced it like Tark, within the mid 90s, which sounds very similar to Power to Believe. So those two are also extremely connected within their discography. And then from there, like for me, I feel like both Tark and Power to Believe are kind of like different sides of the same coin, because they have that same style, that same kind of blend. And then on top of that, do you include the side projects like a King Crimson project? So for me, trying to rank the King Crimson albums in that sense is extremely difficult, and there would be a lot of lead up and a lot of explanation behind that, and I don't know if I could do it justice. So that's kind of why I've been hesitant to tackle that. As well, I mean, the biggest one for me is the fan base of King Crimson terrifies me. I mean, it feels like I've got two populations when I'm dealing with King Crimson fan base. And I mean, I love the fan base. They're very vocal. They're very supportive of the band. But I feel like if I put that kind of a video out there, I'm opening myself up to quite a bit of criticism. Like, no matter how I rank them, I'm going to be torn apart. And I don't know if I really want to invite that kind of pressure and that kind of spotlight. Like, they terrify me more than even like Metallica's fan base or Tool's fan base, and both of those fan bases can get a little nasty, right? Like King Crimson's fan base, at least with Metallica's, I'm only really working with Gen X and millennials, and with Tools I'm pretty much dealing with just millennials, maybe a little bit of the Gen X. But with King Crimson, I'm dealing with the Gen X, I'm dealing with the millennials, I'm dealing with the boomers, and it's just like, that's a lot of different personalities coming right at me. So yeah, that's a lot of explanation there, but that's kind of where I'm standing right now. Like, if in the future, and we're talking like distant future, if I do decide to do that King Crimson, that's going to take a while, because there's a lot to kind of suss out. So yeah, hopefully that spent a lot of time, so I can get to some more of these questions. So thank you so much for that question, because I know it's been asked a lot of times. So we'll see. Let's see here. Erie 3343. I've discovered a ton of good stuff because of you. Have you reviewed any Flaming Row? Arion Like Opera's new album in a few weeks. I haven't. I've never actually heard of Flaming Row. But if they're anything like Arion, then I'm all for that. Serbian. Thanks. Hey, Serbian. Thanks for the 10K. Yay. I think I've asked this or something, but how did I get into prog? Yeah, that's a great question. How did I get into prog? So I got into prog mainly through my uncle and my father. My uncle was really into like the experimental stuff in the like 65 to 75 era. And I actually just inherited a whole bunch of albums from him, so I'm slowly making my way through that stuff. I'm just going to turn down the music just a hair, but do let me know, maybe a little louder. That's fine. Let me know if it gets too loud, because I'll turn that down, or I'll just speak louder. So growing up, I was always kind of exposed to progressive rock, but mainly just within the context of my dad really liking that, like, late 60s to 70s. He was more of like Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, classic rock kind of style. But his favorite band when I was growing up was like Queen and Pink Floyd. So I grew up with Pink Floyd, but it was mainly like metal, Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, and Animals. Like, those were the 4 albums that he would play consistently. And so being exposed to all that, I already kind of had a leaning towards that. And then, like, what really sparked it, so my first concert was when I went to see Yes in 2003. But then the following year, it was probably the same year, because it was in the winter time. And I went to see Yes early spring. In the winter time, my dad took me to see the Musical Box. And they were playing their full Lamb Lies Down on Broadway tour. And that blew me away. Like, I was early teenager, so like 14, 15 years old, and at the time I was just kind of listening to like the modern rock of the time. Like, my favorite bands were like Prozac or Our Lady Peace, Canadian bands like that. I was also really into like Blink-182 and Limp Bizkit, and but then, like, after hearing not the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, sorry, it was A Song in England by the Pound, it just blew me away. And since then, I was just doing a deep dive. I purchased all of the Gabriel Genesis albums, got much more wrapped up into Yes, into Emerson, Lake and Palmer, into King Crimson. Like, those were the 4 groups that I really dove deep into, and then it just kind of exploded from there. So yeah, thanks for the question. That was a good one. I always love kind of rehashing the origins of my progressive rock. Oh, thank you. You donated some money there, I think. I don't know what that all means, but you've got your first super chat ever. It goes through. It does. Thank you so much. Anyways, thank you and the great people on the Discord for great music recommendation. Oh yes, I have a Discord as well. I think it's in. I don't have it there in the description. It's on all of my items, but that's how the super chat works. Thank you so much. And I just spent a bit of time on your question already, so I think I'm going to move on. But thank you so much for that super chat. That was fantastic. DFM Don't Fear Music is asking, what's my favorite album / band or artist that isn't prog or Taylor Swift? Yeah, I like a lot of like classical music. So like Beethoven is a huge one. Stravinsky is another really one that I love. If we're going into like modern and contemporary stuff, I like a lot of the indie stuff. So like Arcade Fire, Mumford and Sons, anything that kind of flirts with that art, experimental stuff. I mean, anything that's kind of, I'm going to leave out those prog adjacent bands like Muse and Radiohead and all those. And I'm going to concentrate more on like, I guess, indie acts. You know, and then there's like that Venn diagram where I guess like the Flaming Lips and Polyphonic Spree kind of touch their toe into. So yeah, I really dig that kind of stuff, and I have a soft spot for different pop artists as well. As I mentioned before, like I still love Prozac, still love that early 2000s, late 90s scene, because I mean that's what I kind of grew up with. So yeah, those are the ones that kind of come to my head. One of my favorite albums of all time is actually Smash Mouth's Astrologue. I can listen to that day in and day out. I really enjoy that. I might actually have to do a Masterpiece Theater on that album. So yeah, those are some of my favorite bands and artists that aren't. I also really like the Shins, even though their last album of Heartworms wasn't all that great. But their Port of Morrow album just blew me away. So yeah. Panerazonic 1 from Cody Taylor. I was thinking of the wrong band. I was thinking of Oceanside, not the Ocean. The same kind of goes there. Sorry, Cody, for taking so long to get there. I'm just kind of going through the chat. I guess I should have kind of looked through that as well. Yes, you're right. So I still haven't gone through any of the Ocean's past stuff. But yeah, thanks for that. Ian Beckett, Farewell to Kings is my favorite album from them. I would love to see a review of that. Maybe one day, once I have a little bit more time on my hands. Have I listened to Flotation Toys Warning Buffer's Guide to Flight Deck? Thoughts? I have not. So, Jethro Tull's Worst to Best. Yeah, that would be a beast, though. Because there's a lot of his stuff from the 80s and 90s that I haven't listened to. And then would I include Ian Anderson's stuff as well? Like Think It's a Brick 2 and Homo Sapien? I would feel pressured to do so. But yeah, that's a beast because they have a lot of material out there that I haven't actually listened to yet. And thanks for the congratulations. Yay. That's here. Leos? No, there's no. Lilos. There we go. Have you ever heard of the Brazilian prog band called Stratus Luna? I haven't. It's ringing a small bell, but not a whole bunch. Yeah. Ian, is it Ian or Ian? Anyway, Ian, I think it's Ian. Yeah. Just listen to Rick Wakeman's new Christmas album. Oh, I didn't know he had a new Christmas album. I better check that out because I love that. Thoughts on Dredged or Oceanside from Brighton Courier. Oceanside. That's the one that was that the one that I live streamed? I think that was the one that I live streamed, and I really liked that because I went back and I re-listened to that stuff. Really liked that. Dredged, I haven't actually listened to or heard of, so I can't comment too much on that. Serbian again is coming in, so because you gave me that little super chat, I can spend a little bit more time on this and not feel so guilty. What are your favorite prog or non-prog hidden gems? Okay, so let's see here. I already talked a little bit about the Shins. Port of Morrow is probably my favorite album of theirs. That's not necessarily a hidden gem. Let me see here. A hidden gem. I know I've talked a little bit on my Masterpiece Theater of some of those, like The Gathering Light by Karamanized. I can never pronounce them. That's definitely a hidden gem for sure. Afrat is a majorly hidden gem. Love that album, and unfortunately they only put out the one album. Let's see, another really great hidden gem that's like there's those that I feel are masterpieces that like do get quite a bit of notoriety, like Griffin 3, like what's another one that kind of springs to mind, like Anecdoton, like Engelard, but like a lot of people kind of know of those, and some of the like albums of the year of this past decade have really been hidden gems. So I'm gonna think about that, and when people, like, when it comes to me, I'll kind of let you know. Yeah, because that's a good question. Do you have a frequently asked question list somewhere for stuff like your favorite band's albums? I don't. Maybe I should develop like a FQA on that, but I don't know where I would house it. Where would I house that? Where could I put something like that? That's a good point. Maybe I'll do that. Third Degree, congrats, thanks, and congrats on you guys for putting out that live DVD Blu-ray. Really excited to check that out if I ever get the chance. If you guys want to send me a copy, I'll be sure to review it. Just a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And I think that's the end of that album. So I want to keep this time going for another amazing album. Let's see here. What's the next one? A Fresh Air Christmas. Let's go to that one because we are listening to some Fresh Air questions. Started at 8. People say hi. Just doing there. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. What do we got here? Yeah, the Jethro Tull Worst to Best would be a mammoth of a video because the guys are non-stop. Thank you for turning me into Let's Sing the Songs. Oh, by Harmonium. Yes, Harmonium is definitely one of those hidden gems. If you guys haven't already listened to it, Marcus, great poll there. Harmonium's second album, I think it was, of Les Cinq Saisons, which I think translates to the 5 seasons, being like the 4. Are you sure this is? Yeah, Hark the Angels Sang. I mean, this is all right. So yeah, probably one of my favorite albums of theirs. I know that they put out one after that a lot of people really, really like. But for me, it's Les Cinq Saisons is the one that I particularly love. Cherie. Okay, thank you very much, Brighton, for getting me through that. Did you get any record stores for RSD Black Friday? I, for one, didn't this year. No, I didn't do that. Unfortunately, I'm on an extremely, extremely tight budget right now. Just some personal things going through, so I can't in all good conscience. Ooh, that was a little too much there. See, I got that. You know what? I'll just talk a little bit louder. That's all. So unfortunately, I couldn't take advantage of any kind of deals in terms of Black Friday sales. I have to kind of limit myself. In fact, I mentioned this on my Instagram, but my uncle just gave me a lot of his, well, actually all of his old records, and there are a few that I already had in my collection. There are a few that I just won't listen to because he's a big fan of artists that I'm not. So I actually ended up selling quite a number of them, and then I got a little bit, like it wasn't a lot, but I got a little bit from that, and then from there I was able to pick up maybe 1 or 2 used albums. So I picked up Fresh Air 4, and then Mountains live album, which I might be doing a video over because that's kind of cool. So unfortunately, no, I didn't take advantage of any Black Friday sales because I saw there was quite a number of record stores here in Toronto that I frequent that were doing that, like Pop, which is on Broadview and Gerrard, which I highly recommend. A great guy that's running it. He knows his stuff, and he's just an all-around great guy. As well as Sonic Boom, the big one that's on Spadina between Queen and Dundas. And then Rotate This, which is off of Ossington, just south of Bloor. Yeah, those are my 3 big ones that I always go to here in Toronto. Okay, let's see if I can find my spot here. If you want to get into Dreg, listen to is it Celio, please? Okay, I'll do my best. I can't really spare too much time because my schedule for videos pretty much lock themselves into place from now until 2020. So yeah, we'll see. Am I familiar with Dave Kresner's album New World? Sounds familiar, but I'm not sure if I know that one. Ian? Yeah. Let's see here. What are my thoughts on video game music? Any particular soundtracks I fancy? Yes, Travis, great question. Ooh, excuse me, that's a burp. There it is. Okay, perfect. Started as a hiccup and ended up as a burp. That's how it works. Amazing question. I love video game soundtracks. Pro tip, I've mentioned this before in live streams, but if you want music to study to or to work to, video game soundtracks are where to go, because that's what they're designed for. They're designed to keep you engaged in what you're doing. Because if it becomes too bombastic, then your attention on gameplay will be divided into listening to the music. But at the same time, if it isn't engaging enough, your brain will start to tune out and lose focus. So video game music is the best music to work to or to study to. It's a scientific fact. Actually, it is. There's studies that have gone on to prove this. In terms of my favorite ones, there are a few that I will listen to that I just listen to for nostalgia reasons, like Mario 64 soundtrack I will listen to time and time again. I have the Earthworm Jim soundtrack in vinyl, actually, because I really enjoyed that one. I grew up with the Sega Genesis, so there's a game called Subterranea that I used to play as a kid, and the soundtrack for that one is just brilliant. There's no other word for it. It is beyond amazing. They have uploaded it to YouTube, and you need to listen to it. Subterranea from the Sega Genesis, their soundtrack, because it, like most soundtracks, will loop after about like a minute and a half to 2 minutes, depending on, especially like this was back in the Sega Genesis era, like the 16-bit consoles. So it would loop after about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, sometimes even 3 minutes. But this wouldn't loop. They designed the soundtrack to carry you through the entire level, so they're like 7 to 10 minutes per track, so it's just so good. And yeah, so those are the ones. I also really like Diablo, like the Tristan suite with the guitar. It's haunting, it's gripping, it's perfect. It captures that gothic Renaissance esque feel of the game, and kind of like a dark high fantasy in that sense. So there's quite a bit that I really like. So those are the ones that I fancy in particular. Prediction for the next genre for the King Giz album. Oh geez, that's a toughie, because you can never, I don't know. I would say if I were to predict, I would say they would take what they had learned from Fishing for Fishies and go straight up into the electronic dance. That's as good as a guess as I'm going to give. Let's see here. Don't fear the music. Oh, did it move? Did it move? I want to make sure. Let's see here. Are there any worst to bests you now disagree with enough to the point you'd redeem them or redo them? If so, which ones? Also, where would you put Dream Theater's Distance Over Time? Nope. I mean, I spent a lot of time on my worst to bests, like a ridiculous amount of time on those things to make sure that I've got the order right for how I feel. So at no point do I ever feel like, oh, I should have changed that album to this. No, I never have that. Because I really like spend as much time as I can before it feels right. And where would I put Dream Theater's Distance Over Time? I'd probably put it in the same era or area that I put Falling Into Infinity. Probably just a little below Falling Into Infinity. That's probably where I'd put it. I mean, I try to do it's funny. I try to do bands that I think at this point haven't put out any new albums or materials. And then Dream Theater, Flower Kings, they both released albums this year. Same with Opeth. So I'm like, well then, I guess I might have to, I don't know. Yeah. Let's see here. Just getting into this is Alex. Hi, Alex. Just getting into the album "The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway." My biggest takeaway from it so far is how much of a change a concept album of this magnitude can change Genesis' sound. Yeah, I have a lot to say about "The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway." My cousin and I, when we were in our late teens, like we're talking like 18, 19, we both agreed that we first loved the first side and we're just kind of about the second side, like the second album. But then as we got used to the second album because of how experimental it was, how crazy it was, we actually ended up liking the second side more than we liked the first side, because the first side has a lot of those like really catchy tracks. It has like the title track, it has In the Cage, it has the Carpet Crawlers. So like it's got a lot more of those like radio friendly tracks. But the second disc has like the Chamber of 30, no, that's the first. No, the Chamber of 32 Doors. That's how the album ends. Lily White Lilith opens that up. But it has a Colony of Slipperman. It's got Riding in the Squee, which I love. Just really great stuff. Do you like the Go Team? I've never heard of them, Steve, so I can't actually say that. Send the last one before finishing it. Oh, right, you've got a question. Sorry, let's get to the question. In your opinion, what changes to the sound on The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway are good ones, and which ones are ones that are worse? Ooh, that's a good question, Alex. Oh man, that's a great question. I love how, like, even though they have longer songs, I like the pressure that the longer runtime put on the band, because some of those filler songs, like the Empty Boats of Sorrow, I think it is, and the Grand Parade of is it the Grand Parade of Lifeless Packaging? It's been years since I've listened to The Lamb, which is a shame. But there's a few of those like interlude songs that really forces them to stretch their legs and try different things. And you can also see where Peter Gabriel is going to go within his solo career. The one thing that I don't think worked was how divisive the band was, where Peter was kind of off writing the lyrics and the concept, and the band was writing the music. And so when it came together, it did work. It worked pretty well, but I feel like it sent a wedge through the band, which, I mean, it worked. It was still a good thing creatively for everybody involved, because Peter found that he liked working by himself, and the band found that they liked writing music for themselves. But I don't know if, I do kind of wonder what would have happened if Peter stayed with the band. Like what kind of music. Although we probably wouldn't have gotten Trick of the Tail or Wind and Weathering, which are both masterpieces in their own rights. But I think, so I think I'm going to leave that one there. It must be fresh in Toronto, ... from Miguel. I don't know what that means, Miguel. Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean by it's going to be fresh in Toronto? It's pronounced E. Okay, cool. Thank you. As you know, I'm terrible with pronunciation. Excuse me. Okay, Erie is saying, on another note, The Flaming Row, they have 2 albums so far, Eleanor and Mirage Marriage. Both are amazing. Okay. Cool. Super Meat Boy has an amazing soundtrack. Ooh, I might have to check that out. Let's see here. Travis is jumping back onto the video game music. Love Naduo. His work with Final Fantasy. I actually got to listen to a symphony predominantly from his music. I mean, the ones that I've listened to the most are like Final Fantasy X, because that's the only Final Fantasy game I've played all the way through. I got halfway through 7, part ways through 8, and about halfway through 12. 12 sounds right. But yeah, that hymn to Xanarkin, that little piano work that's like do 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 do. I love that whole suite. It's like 7 minutes or whatnot. It's beautiful. Stephen Milson made a what was it, Last Day of Fall, which rejigs a lot of his music from Grace for Drowning and The Raven That Refused to Sing, and it's pretty much purely instrumental. Really like that. Miguel, good call on that. Metroid Prime soundtrack is amazing. I'll have to check that out. Sleepless is just Tony Banks. Yeah, let's shout out Tony Banks. Love the guy. He's pretty cool. Thoughts on the band Discipline? They have some great songs called Canto 4. I haven't heard of Discipline, so I can't really say. Let's see what we got. Have you heard of Serdis album called Timelessness? I have not. No, I'm sorry. Silent Hill 2 has my video game original soundtrack. Yeah. I haven't played Silent Hill. In fact, like, I used to be a really big gamer in my when I was young. Like, I had the Sega Genesis. I had the Sega Dreamcast. I had the Nintendo 64 until we had to sell it. PlayStation 2, I think, was the other one that I had. And then I had a Wii. But after that, I kind of stopped playing. And it's only been very recently that I picked up the Switch. And I've been kind of getting back into it. It must be cold there. Oh, yeah, it's... I mean, it is. I'm finding the wind is what kills you the most. Like, right now, it's only about minus 1 degree centigrade, which I think translates to about, like, 35, 36 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere around there. So it's a little chilly. It's a little chilly, but I actually enjoy the cold. As long as you kind of, like, bundle yourself up, you're fine. Cuphead has some really catchy big band sounds. Ooh, yeah, I know that Cuphead has, like, it's a throwback to that 30s style, right? Like, very Steamboat Willie and stuff like that. Yeah. If you were to create your one supergroup, what would it consist of? Ooh, that's a great question. What would I... Because I would always think about that. My mind would always change. Now, is that anybody? Or is that only working and living musicians? Because that would be tricky, because they have to play well together, right? Like, I would love to have, say... boy, who would I have play? Yeah, I think I would have, like... Who would I have? Yeah, Michael Eichelfeld would be mandatory. And that's the thing, right? Like, I would want to have these people work well together. But I do know that certain personalities do clash. Anybody. So it could be anybody, eh? Ooh, that's going to be tricky. It would all depend on what kind of sound would I want. Because that's the real question, right? Like, what sound do I really want? First off, I'd want more harmonization, so I think all members would need to sing in some way, shape, or form. If not, like, prominently, which would then, like, let's see, who would I put on each instrument? And again, I would like a lot of harmonizations in terms of the vocal work. I like a lot of atmosphere. I would like both the keyboardist and the guitarist to be able to handle both center stage as well as harmonizations. So, for example, as much as I love, no, I'm not going to say that. But there are certain, like, for example, the main keyboardist from Porcupine Tree, Richard Barr something or other. He has amazing grounding, but in terms of taking center stage, it's not quite there. And I feel like whenever I think about this, I always fall into the trap of just recreating a band that already exists, right? Like, I just want to put Martin Alford and Mike Holmes together, and I'm like, oh, well, that's just IQ, right? Or I'd want to put Jordan Rudess and John Petrucci together, and I'm like, oh, well, there's just Dream Theater, right? And, like, picking a drummer would be so hard. Like, do I go Marco Miniman, or do I go Gavin from Porcupine Tree and now King Crimson, or do I go reach back into the past with like Bill Bruford, put him back in there. Although if we're going to have singing, then you got to have Phil Collins on the drums. Mike Portnoy would also be a really great inclusion on that. Yeah, man, that is. The more I'm thinking about it, the more like the bands just shift and sway. I think okay. If I'm going to take this seriously, and everybody's going to sing, I think there was a band that Mike Portnoy wanted to form, where he wanted everybody to sing. So I would have 3 guitarists. So Mike Portnoy would have to be on drums if I was going to follow this through. Devin Townsend would be on guitar. And then I'd have both Michael Eckelfelt and Stephen Wilson. I feel like Stephen Wilson would be more... He would work with Devin Townsend in terms of producing it, and I think the two would be able to work really well together. Devin having the wall of sound, but Stephen being able to flush out every little nook and cranny of that, so it's not just a complete blast. But I also know that Devin Townsend doesn't work very well in the constraints of other people, so that we need to keep into consideration there. But I do also know that Mike Portnoy wants to work with each of these individuals. On the keyboards, then, I would probably put Richard from Porcupine Tree, as well as have guest appearances. If I'm going to allow guest appearances, Jordan Rudess to come on a few times, as well as, oh shoot, why can't I remember his name from Haken? But we also want a singer on there, but there's not a whole lot of singers from other bands. Now, bass is going to be interesting. I would want to, like, again, if I could pull anybody, Chris Squire for sure be on bass. But I also really, really like, and again, I'm really bad with names, the bass player from Porcupine Tree, or not Porcupine Tree. I mean, he's a good bass player. But I love that bass sound from the Flower Kings. I'm going to find his name. I know it starts with a D. Don't tell me. Not Thomas Bodin, although Thomas Bodin would be a really good one. Jonas Ringgold. Jonas Ringgold. No, he's the guitar player. Why did I think? Is it Hesse? Swedish guitarist. Oh. Anyway. I thought Jonas was the bass player. He is the bass player. Haha, I knew it. He would definitely be... Oh, but you know what? Yeah. Travis. The bass player from Marillion, who's already worked with Mike Portnoy before. So that would be a very good working order for that. So I'd probably have Pete Travis on bass. Because his bass lines are very, very well done. Although, Jonah's still on bass because I love that bass line. Wow, I've spent a lot of time with this, but as you can see, it's really, really, like, it's something that you really need to consider. And then who would I be missing? I've already got the drums figured out. I think I would need like because I have guest appearances, right? No, I don't need a lead singer. I think they'll all take their own time. Okay, Barberini. Wow, yes. Okay. Just going quite up here. Josh 56. Yes, 100%. We're going to Little Caesars to celebrate my 10K. 100%. We're doing this. I have a feeling you're not into the genre, but favorite rap album. Yeah, you're right. I don't really. The only real rapper that I've really listened to any, like, would Lin-Manuel Miranda's count? He's more of like hip hop. Like the whole Hamilton, right? Would that count? The only other person that I've listened to in the past would be like Eminem, because he was really big when I was a teen. And then I would just be throwing stuff in the dark. I know that a lot of people have recommended Kendrick Lamar. And I've listened to a few things from Childish Gambino, which is okay. But that's about it. That's all I got. So yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. Then I should listen to this band. A lot of people are talking a little bit about my supergroup that I was spending way too much time thinking about. Let's see here. Miguel is asking, what am I most anxious for next year? I don't know. I haven't actually kept my ear to the ground in terms of albums that are coming out next year. I'm definitely most excited for Transatlantic's new album. I think that would be really, really fun. Really looking forward to them. Kaleidoscope wasn't my favorite album of theirs, and I want to hear a little bit more from them. I think that would be fun. But other than that, I don't know too many other albums that are going to be released in 2020. So I'm just going to keep my ears open. Let's see, are more supergroups. Loving that. Oh man, have I reached the end of all the questions? Keep those questions coming, peoples. You're going to put me on the spot. And yeah, then I won't know what to say. So I'm going to take some time to take some water. Oh, one thing that I could say is if you guys are interested, I have a Dungeons & Dragons live stream every Thursday now. We're on our 4th game this coming Thursday. We've put it all on YouTube. We stream to Twitch. I believe it's 7 o'clock. Every oh, Alenzo, I'm sorry, I haven't read yours. Oh gosh. Ah! All right, Alenzo, let's see if I can find yours. Alenzo. Oh right, James Bond. I did read that. I don't know why I skipped over that. Oh boy, I do like James Bond. You know, I grew up with what was the one that I grew up really, really liking? The Pierce Brosnan. His was like, that was when I was kind of well, I knew of all the other ones, but those were the ones that I would watch. Because my dad really, really likes Live and Let Die, mainly because of the boat sequence. And it was good. What was it? The World Is Not... No, was it The World Was Not Enough or Die Another Day? Let me just check, because I want to make sure that I say the right one. It was the one that opens up with, like, this big boat chase, and then the guy gets, like, blasted with a whole bunch of diamonds, and he has diamonds in his face for most of it. James Bond film series. Which one was it? I'll know it when I see the... No, more. The World Is Not Enough. That sounds... Does that sound right? I think that sounds right. Yeah, because there's Tomorrow Never Dies, which was all about, like, newspapers, that I was just like, what is this about? So I really like that one. Not Tomorrow Never Dies, but The World Is Not Enough. And then Die Another Day was just kind of like, womp womp. I also really like Casino Royale and Skyfall. I feel like those two are probably my favorites because like it's so gripping and so heart intense without being like over the top. Just kind of having a look now through all the different Bond movies. Yeah, so there's quite a bit of them, right? Ooh, there's a new one coming out too. No Time to Die in 2020. It's got the main man coming back to reprise the role. I really want Idris Elba to come in and take the shoes of Bond because he is James Bond. Like, you just need to look at the man. You're like, yep, that's James Bond. I think Mr. Daniel is getting a little bit on the older side. I mean, it worked for Connery, so maybe it can work for him, but we'll see. Sorry about that. I thought I was this close not to do that. So, okay, so I'm going to let those questions kind of come through because I'm pretty excited for those. I'm going to talk a little bit about the D&D game because apparently my other players are like, you don't talk about your D&D game enough on your social media and whatnot. I'm like, well, I pump it out through my Twitter, and that's kind of my main way to connect with you guys. So yeah, I've got a D&D game going on every Thursday, guys. I play a pretty fun character that I really love to embody. She's a lot of fun to play. you guys should check it out. We've marketed it as like an adult game, so we tackle such gripping issues. Yeah. So that's gonna be fun. If you guys want to join me, I usually post a link and then it goes up on YouTube on Saturdays. So it's Dungeons and Darkness. Just search Dungeons and Darkness on YouTube and you should be able to find us. I'm usually wearing a blonde wig because the character I play is blonde. And I like to embody the character through props and whatnot, as we all do. So, yeah, go and check us out. Okay, let's see here. What's your opinion on the later Talk Talk albums? Talk Talk. Is that in response to like Talk Talk of King Crimson? You might need to elaborate a little bit on that just so I don't misspeak. A couple of people are actually asking about my biggest disappointment of 2019. Both Arthur and Serbian. What's the biggest disappointments and worst albums I've listened to in 2019? Let's see. There were a few. Most of the time, whenever I think about them, let me just actually check. Yeah, I have to actually go through my videos and see which ones I did. So just give me a second, and I'll load that up, and I can kind of talk a little bit about that just to see what we got. Because there were a few that I was just like, oh no. Let's see here. Oh yeah, Jeff Lynne's ELO was okay. Screens from District 97 I found was a little bit of a letdown. Pitfalls, also by Leprous, was a little bit of a letdown for me. I know the tea is going to be hot for some of these. I just found it was too much of a solo work. And I feel like they already kind of did this with Melinda, whatever that last one was called. Let's see, what else was there? There were definitely a lot of really great surprises, which I am very happy to see. Oh yeah, I got a lot of hate for my Jolly review, but I did not like that one either. That was a letdown. Oh right, Baroness, Gold and Gray, that was a letdown for sure. I don't know what they were trying to do with that one. Really don't know what they were doing with that one. It was kind of all over the place, and not necessarily in a good way. Yeah, Under Stars by Lonely Robot was a little bit of a letdown as well, especially how high the Big Sleep was. Let's see, what other ones did I review this year that I could talk about, or at least draw attention to? I think that's about it. Yeah, now I'm getting into my... So most of the time I have to just kind of take a look. So let's see if anybody got really riled up with those. No. Doesn't look like that. Let's see here. Let's just go through and make sure that I'm getting to all those. Travis is saying the supergroup would be all him on all instruments except for the drums and vocals, which would be handled by Gavin Harris and Devin Townsend. Yep, I can see that. Already tackled that. If I sent you a CD of prog rock, prog metal that I'm thinking of making, would I listen to it? I would listen to it. It's whether or not I would have time to review it. Quite a number of musicians send me their material, and I do my best. I know I've got Desert Trees Progressive Worlds in my back catalog that I need to put out, so it's my priority in December to get to that. But I will in fact listen to it. It's whether or not I'll have time to review it. That's the main thing. What's your favorite song from Moving Pictures? What is my favorite song from Moving Pictures? I really like The Camera Eye. That's a fun track. I mean, there's so many really, really good tracks off of that album. I mean, Tom Sawyer is also extremely good. It's just catchy, short, sweet, to the point. Yeah. I hope that one helps. Let's see here. Oh, Anathema is putting out a record. All right. Yeah, their last album was pretty good. I feel like they're in a little bit of a lull right now, but hopefully. No offense to Downs, but I hope Patrick Moraz is available to do the keyboard parts on the Relayer album series tour next year, because I can only imagine how Sound Chaser would sound otherwise. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like, Patrick's personality on that album, especially on Gates of Beryllium. No, I got reamed out in my Yes Worst to Best. I want to say it's Beryllium. I don't know how else to pronounce it, but they're always like, you're pronouncing it wrong. I pronounce every other word wrong. It just breathed a whole new life to it, you know? So, yeah. Spirit of Eden and Laughing Stock. Do you like them? Can't say because I haven't heard them. Sorry about that. Just discovered you by chance some weeks ago. Oh, Diego. Well, thank you so much for discovering me. Hooray. Enjoying you a lot. Very chill stuff, even when I disagree. Yeah, and that's kind of what I hope, you know? Like, if everybody agreed with me all the time, it'd be really boring. I want to be able to get people to think, and part of that is by presenting ideas or opinions that you don't necessarily agree with. So otherwise, it would just be a giant echo chamber. So yeah, I'm glad that I'm able to present some ideas that you disagree with, and I hope that I've got you to think about some of the things. And I love when people comment on my videos. I prefer when people comment like constructually, like kind of explaining things, because there have been moments when I've been wrong, or times when I haven't looked at things in a certain way. Like, for example, when I was reviewing Leprous' latest album of Pitfalls, I wasn't really looking at it from a recovering and living with mental illness and trying to get yourself back into a mental health kind of light. And many people have pointed that out to me. Now, it didn't mean that I enjoyed the album more, but it does contextualize the album a little bit to kind of see where they were coming from. So in that way, it was really, really fun. So yeah, I hope that, that can continue. Looks like we're getting some good questions in. Has Cardiacs... Ooh, it just jumped. Has Cardiacs grown on my soul? It sure has. Cardiacs are one of the few bands that I've been recommended through live streams and Patreon requests that I've actually gone back and listened to. They don't have their stuff on Spotify last time I checked. So it's harder to listen to their stuff because I listen to most of my stuff on the go through Spotify, and when I'm at home, I listen to records, and trying to find a Cardiacs record is like trying to find a needle in a haystack or a freaking unicorn. So yeah. Dan the Knife Ferret. What was the first movie I ever saw? I don't know the first movie I ever saw because I was too young. I do remember the first one I saw in theaters. That was The Muppets Christmas Carol. So it's right there. That one right there. Yeah. Let's see here. Miguel. Anyone into Patrick Watson? Not me. Sorry. Have I listened to Alpha George's Storm Ahead from Arthur Rodriguez? No, I haven't. Back to Serbian. Thank you very much, Serbian. What was your main way of discovering new groups? So, in the past, it was the Prog Archives. I would check that religiously back in the mid 2000s, all the way probably into like 20, even to this day, I still check it out just to see if there's anything that I'm missing on. And there's a few things that I want to go back now that I've got a little bit of a lull and check out. But that would be the main way. Because unfortunately I didn't have a whole lot of friends that liked the same music that I would listen to, so it was harder to kind of get through word of mouth or like magazines or things like that, because the only real magazine would be like the Progressive Rock or prog magazine. And growing up where I did, we didn't really have access to that. But now, I'm actually getting a lot of suggestions from you guys. So you guys are one of the main polls that I have, because you guys will recommend things for me to listen to. And that's how I'll get into that. So I definitely owe you guys a really big thanks, because I know that I like show you guys a lot of music, but a lot of that is just me listening to what you guys are saying, and then whatever sticks, I then dispense to every one of you guys. So that's a big thing right now. And Spotify as well will recommend me people every once in a while. So yeah, Miguel is saying that Tom York's solo album was a disappointment this year. Yeah, I never even got around to listening to it. So I can't really say if it was a letdown or whatnot, because I didn't even see it. And Leprous was a big Leprous was a little bit of a disappointment. Like there were maybe 2 tracks off of that album that I liked, and the rest were just kind of okay. Gray or Gray was saying that great proto post-rock albums. It's funny because proto is usually before. Like when you're thinking of like proto-prog, you're looking at like the Who, and you're looking at like the Beatles, and then post is like after. So when you say like proto-post, it's like before, after. But I do understand that it's what you're meaning with, because it's proto and post-rock is what's there. So yeah, I understand. An example was Gray and Gold. Yeah. No. I do see. So Diego, I do see what you mean about the Gray and Gold. There is a lot to love about that album. I just felt like what they were doing on the album. I think a lot of it is just growing pains. Honestly, I think that the new guitarist that they have, who is brilliant by the way, is I think they just need to kind of work a little bit more together. But I love what they were doing. Really like what they were doing on that. It just didn't resonate with me. That's the only thing. Especially what they had done with Yellow. Because for me, my favorite album from them is actually Yellow and Green. As much as I love Purple, Yellow and Green is probably my favorite work from them. And people do kind of do the same thing that I'm sure that you get with Gold and Gray. So I was kind of hoping for a little bit more proggy, a little bit more oomph. And for me, there's not a really good structure, because Gold and Gray didn't have the same kind of structure that, say, Purple or Green and Yellow did. So yeah. Yeah, but I totally get it. The boat sinks in Titanic. Spoiler alert. No spirit of eating and laughing stock. Oh, okay, so they're the proto post-rock. Cool. And yeah, Travis has got something there with Isn't That Just Krautrock. I mean, you're not wrong. Any proggy jams from the U.S. you like? Ditto Pan, Biggie, Fish. I don't actually know. I mean, outside of Fish, I'm not too familiar with any of those guys. Yeah. I'm not too familiar with the proggy jam bands. Sorry. Diego, a recommendation I'd give is the Traveler album by Traveler. Came out of nowhere in February and feels like a love child between Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. It's on Spotify. Okay. I might check that out. I think I'm out of... Did it end? Yes, okay. I think we'll do one more album, because each of these albums are like 40 minutes. I'll do one more album, and I think I'm going to call it a night for you guys, because I was envisioning this to be like an hour and a half or so. So we'll do Christmas in the Air, and then we'll call it an evening. And this will be good. So keep those questions coming, because we got about a half hour left before we're going to call it a night. Just to go to Diego's point, I'm not a big fan of Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. So if you guys are, then check out this Traveler. I'm a big fan of Critical Role, so when I hear Traveler, I'm like, the Traveler from Jester. But yeah, if people want to go and listen to it, go for it. Let's see here. Do you ever have listener fatigue? I've only been listening to music for a few months, so I'm constantly listening to as much as possible, and I sometimes get listener fatigue. Yeah, so I do Like I've been listening to the Adventure Zone, the podcast, because even I find I'm starting to get burnt out. Because I mean I've been doing this channel now for almost 5 years, I think it is, and like I haven't really had any kind of a substantial break. Now my lifestyle is one that I'm always listening to music. It's just whether or not it's active listening, in terms of like a like for a review. Now that we're getting to the end of the year, I'm going to start working on my like I'm starting to think about the best albums of the year for like my top 10 albums of 2019. So I'm starting to go back and listening to those albums that made a really big impact on me, and I'm working on a short list right now. My album of the year has pretty much been picked, and that generally happens. Unless an album comes and sweeps me off my feet within the last quarter of the year, I pretty much have my album of the year picked by about September. Again, unless I have like an album that comes in and sweeps me off my feet between September through to December. So that album has pretty much been picked. And now it's just kind of rejigging and figuring out where all the albums that are starting to make my short list are going to be. I don't know why I started talking about this. Why did I start talking about this? Oh, right. Listener fatigue, yes. What I will do with listener fatigue is I will listen to an album practically on repeat nonstop until I can't stand it anymore. And I'm starting to get into that right now with No Man's Love You to Bits, because I was listening to that thing on repeat nonstop. Like that's all I was listening to, and that's probably why I haven't recorded any other reviews. I've got 3 reviews that I want to get out next week, as well as my Pink Floyd video. I wanted to get my Pink Floyd video out on Saturday because it was The Wall's 40th anniversary, and my video is why I don't like The Wall. I've been hesitant because I don't want that conversation to happen, but at the same time I want to express why I don't like The Wall. Man, I'm going right off the rails with this listener fatigue. So, for listener fatigue, I will listen to an album and practically like listen to it nonstop, and then just I can't listen to it after that. And I'll put it on the shelf and then come back to it a little bit more later on, which is probably why a lot of my favorite albums of all time I don't listen to all that much now, because I've just played them so much. So in that terms, I think that's my listener fatigue. So what I will do is I'll jump to either a different genre or like a different style entirely, or I'll bounce it off and I'm listening to a lot more podcasts, specifically, as I mentioned, the Adventure Zone. So that's kind of what I do for my listener fatigue, because I do get listener fatigue. And I'll go back to either my tried and true stuff that I love, like I'll revisit albums that I want to get like a better context of, or just like a better feeling of. And yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah. I am interested to know what you mean by when you said you've only really been listening to music for a few months or so. Like, does that mean that you started listening to music a few months ago? So I'm constantly listening to, like, I'm very curious about that. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, that's just as like a general, like, you've only started listening to music a couple months ago? Interesting. Okay, so John Daly, I know you're a prog fan, but was wondering if you like any other types of music that you are, any types of music. Are you a fan of band Queen? If so, will there be any album reviews in the future of the band? It's okay if you're not a fan. No, I love Queen. Which albums do I have in my collection? I think I have Sheer Heart Attack. Which ones? Oh, they're right behind me. Let's see. I should be able to know what albums I have in my collection, but I don't. Where are my Queen albums? Yeah, well. Anyway, I know I definitely have Sheer Heart Attack, and I know I definitely have Night at the Opera, and I think Day at the Races. Really love those stuff. Maybe I'll do like a... There goes my phone. I'm actually going to put my phone over here, because I don't need it right now. yeah, maybe I'll do like Night at the Opera, because that was one that I had growing up, and I really love that one. I love the Prophet song. So yeah. I don't know if I'll do like a review in the future. Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize that Sigur Rós put out an album. Huh, I might actually have to check that out. Umphies McGee is an amazing band. I guess you'd love the album Mantis. It's their only album not on Spotify. Oh, Arthur, why you gotta do me like that? What is better, the Lamb or the Wall? Well, seeing as I just finished praising the Lamb to high heavens and kind of said that I'm going to be putting out an album, like a video this week about why I don't like the Wall. I guess you kind of know where I'm leaning towards that one. Yeah, Paul is saying, would I consider doing a worst to best of Spock's beard? Yeah, I would. The only problem with Spock's beard is the same problem that I have with a lot of Neil Morse stuff. I don't have access to it. And as I already mentioned, I have an extremely strict budget right now. So I don't have any external income at all. So I can't, unfortunately, afford it. I can't afford his Waterfall app, and I can't afford to purchase his albums. Now, I do have a handful of Spock's Beard albums from the Neil Morse era. Snow, 5, and I think At a Darkness. But I don't have the other 2 albums that I would need in order to do that and listen to it. But I would definitely consider doing a Spock's Beard worst to best for sure. Album of the decade is Angelic to the Core, Corey Filled. Okay, well, thanks. Pretty sure that was a troll, but I will. Yeah. Like paying attention, active listening. Okay. Now I'm getting it. Okay. Because I was wondering about that. I'm like, how can you get away with your just really not care for music, and then the internet helped me discover how much I love music, and now I play several instruments. Oh, fantastic. And collect vinyl. That's fantastic. I'm really, really glad to hear that you're enjoying your journey on that, Gray. Yeah, because I know my mother and my brother are very much like that. Like, to them, music is just kind of background sound and just something to pass the time. Whereas my dad and myself are passionate about music, like extremely, extremely passionate. My dad was a keyboard player way back in the day. So, yeah, I kind of get what you're saying now. Let's see here. Just going to go up because I've got a couple. Definitely check out Alpha, George, and Deadpool. Okay, I'll do my best. Grand Tour is my undisputed champion of the year. Ooh, yeah, from Big Big Train. Yeah, we'll see if that matches up with mine. So Bad It's Good, prog album. Ooh, that's a good one. So Bad It's Good. I know I had a conversation with a friend of mine that I need to revisit about if music can be so bad it's good, and I'm in the camp that it can, because I love the Shag's Philosophy of the World. That's one of the albums that I particularly love, and it is just atrocious. And actually that's going to be a video that I've recorded, and I'm just going to upload either this week or next week about the weirdest music. But there's a difference between weird and bad, because I do feel like the Shags are definitely weird, but So Bad It's Good, prog album. One that comes to mind immediately is Rick Wakeman's The Phantom of the Opera. If you've ever heard Rick Wakeman's The Phantom of the Opera, it is unlistenable, but that is definitely one that's so bad it's good. Like, this is coming from Rick Wakeman, who is not averse to being over the top and completely pretentious and just like, what are you doing there, bud? But oh man, this thing is a gold mine in terms of being so bad it's good. Just an absolute gold mine. I think it should be on Spotify. So if you want yourself a really, really good time, listen to Rick Wakeman's Phantom of the Opera. Yeah. Let's see here. Ian is saying prefers Dark Side of the Moon over The Wall, but don't dislike either one. No, that's good. That's good. That's good. Bohemian Rhapsody is an amazing song, but cannot stand hearing it anymore. See, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I'm in the same boat for other really, really amazing but overplayed songs, like Stairway to Heaven. What's another one that is overplayed? Like Bohemian Rhapsody, for sure. They're just those songs that I love, but have been overplayed to death, and I just can't listen to it anymore. But yeah, I still love the Prophet song. Just really cared for me. Oh, right. Already got that with Gray. Thank you. It's funny because you're ignoring an album of the same quality as Cole, Tall Poppy Syndrome, and or Blackwater Park, Ghost Reservoirs, because nobody knows them, and it's kind of sad. Vent, what is that in context of? Is that in context of the Leprous album that came out this year? Yeah. Because if you can expand on that, I'd really be interested to hear that. The same quality as Cole and Tall Poppy Syndrome? Because it's interesting, because of Leprous's discography, those are the two albums that I didn't really quite connect with. I much preferred Bilateral and Congregation. Anyway, Mantis's only album not on Spotify. Okay, so he was kind of going. This is really interesting for me because I'll say something and then I have to jig the chat here. Who would win in a fight, Rail or Benny the Bouncer? Ooh, that's a oh man, that's a good question. That's a really good question. I feel like Rail would be much more of a scrapper. You know, I feel like Rail has no problem. Because I have a feeling if this fight were to happen, Rail would be the instigator and Benny the Bouncer would be the defender. So Benny would... Rail... Essentially, the question that needs to be asked isn't necessarily who would win in a fight, but would Rail succeed in doing what he would want to be doing, which is probably entering the bar, or would Benny stop Rail from entering? I think that's the real question. And I feel as though Rail would probably win. Because I feel like he's got that determination. One of two things would happen. Either Rail would at some point get tired and realize it's not worth it and leave, so he would just back down and not care, or he would outsmart Benny the Bouncer in some way by being scrappy. I think that's what would happen. So one of the two things would happen. It would be a toss-up. That's a very interesting question. I love that kind of question. That's great. More of those, please. I understand what you mean by accessing the early albums. I literally had to purchase all of them from secondhand shops. Yeah, I think that was talking about Cardiacs. Yeah, there is always YouTube. They haven't pulled their albums from YouTube yet, which I'm so thankful for. Because usually what I have to do is I have to download them because I don't really listen to music at home from my computer. I'll listen to things on the go, so I'll download it from YouTube using a secondary site onto my iPod and listen to it that way. That's what I've done with the two albums that I have in my iPod there. I'd love to hear what you thought of Spock's Beard discography. I'm only really familiar with the Neil Morse era. Yeah, I feel like Neil Morse or Spock's Beard have two very distinct eras. Like you've got the Neil Morse era and then you've got the post Neil Morse era, and actually there's pushes and pulls for each, and depending on my mood, I like them both. Like both have albums that I would consider masterpieces, although my favorite album from them is actually from the post Neil era, and I feel like they really came out with like this 1-2 punch, 3 albums that came out that just bam bam bam, which is their it started with their self-titled work, which then went into X or 10, which then went into my favorite album, which is Brief Nocturnes. I've been talking a lot. Holy jeez. I'm gonna have to wind down soon. And so like those 3 albums, just 1, 2, 3, are just knockouts. And each one really, really builds upon itself. Whereas the 2 albums that I really like from the Neil Morris era would be like Snow and 5 or V. So, yeah. Let's see if we've got more talking. I'm actually going to start from the bottom just to... no, I better continue on. Liminal Sleep is meditative only, I guess. Okay. Have I ever listened to an album where the music is phenomenal, but the lyrics are so bad you can't stand listening to it? Great. No, actually. I found that I can tune out the lyrics if I need to, if they're really, really bad. Because there are a few songs that definitely do have really, really bad and cringeworthy lyrics that I just kind of tune out. Now, that being said, really, really great lyrics do not save a bad song, which is probably one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of like the major singer-songwriter stuff. Like I can't really stand Bob Dylan, and I only menially like Leonard Cohen. Like I feel Leonard Cohen has a much better singer voice, but I just can't stand Bob Dylan. I'm sorry, the guy can't sing. Even though I recognize that his lyrics and his poetry are extremely beautiful and very moving. Yeah. Let's see here. What are your thoughts on Blackfield? Love their first 2 albums. Their 3rd and 4th and 5th album are eh. But yeah, I love their first 2 albums. I love how dark pop it is. And oh, Miguel just actually mentioned that is a work of art as a dark pop rock album. So yeah, really, really like their stuff. Let's see here. Prog Girl, I've only turned into the last 20 minutes, but I'm so glad you are doing this. I'm thankful for your channel and your fun. You are super... Oh, I'm super sweet. Thank you. Down to earth guy. Thank you so much. Mariana, right. Yes. Oh, man. I've seen you at a whole bunch of shows. You're just an amazing, amazing creature. Love hanging out with you. If it's the same one that I'm thinking of, let me know. Because big waves, hugs. Hope to see you at more prog shows. Blackfield 2 in Blackfield 1. Oh, it kind of split itself. So Blackfield 2 is greater than... No, less than. Because it's less than Blackfield 1. Yeah, because the alligator wants to eat the bigger other one. Interesting. See, I always like Blackfield 2 a little bit more. I feel like it's got a little bit more oomph. Like, what is it? There are 2 or 3 songs off of that I really, really like. I will admit, I think Blackfield 1 is a better overall rounded album, whereas Blackfield 2 has better songs on it. And that is something that happens quite a bit. Let's see here. Don't say that. It's not. But I also... It jumped. Also really good. Okay. Those first are LPs are great. Oh, okay. So they're talking about Blackfield. That's where it was. Okay, cool. I'm glad that people are talking about Blackfield because Blackfield is really cool. I'm going to let people keep doing that because keep doing that. Love that, love that, love that. What is your least favorite Genesis song? Who Done It? Can't do it. Who Done It? Don't care. Let's see here. What would be my prog non-prog festival dream lineup? Ooh. Well, I would love to see Moon Safari live, so I would have them come on. But then, like, who would I? That's a big, big question. See, that's the thing. Like, if I were to make it, nobody would show up, right? Because for me, I'd want Moon Safari to headline, because I think they're just beyond brilliant, and I want more and more people to listen to Moon Safari. But if I make them the headline, very little people would show up, or they'd be pissed off. So I think what I would do is if I had a music festival, it would be over 3 days, and each day it would all be centered around progressive rock, and each day would be a different prog subset, right? So I feel like the Friday would be... Ooh. What would it be? How would I structure this? Okay, so there would definitely be 3. There would be more of like the... Okay, I'm it's coming to me. It's coming to me. One would definitely be more metal. And so on the metal day, I think, who would headline day? I mean, Dream Theater is an obvious choice to lead that one. Then I would have like Between the Buried and Me. Opeth definitely 100% would have to be on that day. Devin Townsend would definitely have to be on that day. And then I would probably have a little bit of like throughout the day, like the sludge metal, like Baroness and Mastodon would be on that day. Yeah, that would probably be the one day. Then the other day would probably be, so I think that would be Saturday, because I feel like more people would come to that day, because that would be the big draw. Oh, but I gotta have hate. Ooh, okay. Oh man, this is coming into like a full week. Then the next day would be like metal adjacent. So like we're thinking of like more active bands, because these guys have all toured together. Like, so I'm looking at like Haken, I'm looking at like Thank You Scientists, Leprous, looking at Bent Knee and the T Club. Because right now the 3 of them, Thank You Scientist, Bent Knee, and T Club are all touring together, so that would work. But man, I'm pushing Moon Safari so far out of the jam, because Moon Safari would be more on the retro prog day. But who would I have headlining that one? Either like Spock's Beard or the Flower Kings would be headlining that one. No, Marillion would have to headline that one. And then you would also have like Big Big Train, and Rickard Soulbloom would be in there, and I would beg him to do a reunion of Beardfish so that I could listen to Comfort Zone live. Maybe get him to do the Sleeping in Traffic, and that would be where Moon Safari would end up. Wow, I'm talking a lot about this. And then finally, the last day would probably be all the contemporary stuff. So we're looking at like Steven Wilson would headline, and we would have like Anathema and Gazpacho. We would have who else would be in the that day? Maybe if Opeth is there, have a Storm Corrosion set to do that day. I'd probably move actually Opeth over into that day, just for convenience sake. Yeah, that's a lot to take in. What is it? Corpa Kareska. You got quite a bit of an answer there, so I hope that's cool. If you could get one album, an animated movie, what would it be? I would love to see an adaptation of Hope by Klaatu. Yeah. That's gonna be my one. Am I a fan of Wishbone Ash? Ooh, I gotta move that back up. Oh boy, you guys are. How am I going to get back to this? Okay. Yes, I've heard of Wishbone Ash. I know that they did the whole twin guitars stuff. Haven't actually really dug deep into theirs, but I've listened to a few of their albums. Kind of like that. How do I feel about Minstrel in the Gallery? I find it underrated, especially Cold Wind to Valhalla. Yeah, I love Cold Wind to Valhalla. Really, really enjoy that track. I'm not too familiar with Minstrel in the Gallery, though, outside of Cold Wind to Valhalla, because I really like that. Have I heard of the band Soen? Yes. They're okay, because I love the drummer, the old drummer from Opeth, Martin. Well, no, it's not Martin. Anyway, his name escapes me at the moment. Really, really like it. I actually saw their single release that was released this year at the record store I was at when I was selling the records. So yeah. What's your take on King's X? Oh no! Oh, you didn't ask me that. Oh, I know you didn't know. Okay. So, strap yourselves in. I know we're going a little bit over what I was hoping to, but maybe we'll just do a full 2 hours. Let's do a full 2 hours here. So I saw King's X when they opened up for Porcupine Tree when Porcupine Tree was doing the Incident Tour, and I have never been more bored. I am so sorry. I know that's not what you wanted to hear. My friend and I, when we went to see them, we had to hold ourselves, like plugging our nose and holding our mouths in from not laughing because of how much we did not enjoy their set. And I don't know if it was just their time constraint or whatever, but I did not enjoy it at all. I don't know if it was just because of what they were playing live. I don't know. Maybe they'd be better in a studio setting. I just could not. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. But no. I'm going to move on. I'm so sorry. Blackfield 1 brings you to tears. That's great. Yeah. Especially when you think about, love that. Have I heard of Diorama by Silverchair? Yes, I love Diorama. Oh, the opening track off of that album hits me right in the heart so hard. Ugh. Oh, and there's like a live performance of the guy where he's singing, and once he gets into that key change, he takes off his jacket and he's wearing this really sharp vest. Oh, love it. And he's got like that. Oh, how does it go? They better have that on. We're gonna be listening to that because I love that. We're listening to that right now. Give me a second. Silverchair. I know they're really big in being like the big angsty one of like, the youth for, the youth of 2000 and whatnot. But no, Across the Night. That's it. Across the Night. And then the ending of My Favorite Thing. We're listening to Across the Night right now, guys. I'm sorry. I can't. It's where he's starting to go like, you just made my night, man. Shane, you just made my night. We are listening to this right now. I mean, this, I was like, oh, if I put it on, here we go. Ready? I was like, oh man, I'm not going to be demonetized. I'm going to get all the cash from this. Screw it. I'm listening to this song. Like, they're going to ping this right away and be like, this violates copyright. All the money is now going to go to Silverchair. Dude, take the money. This track alone is enough for it. Ugh. Shane, my man. Yes. Okay. Let's see here. And I'm going to have to stop and grush when my favorite part happens, by the way. So, Going for the One is underrated. It takes a lot of praise and debuted at number 1 at the UK. Yeah, I mean, if you've watched my worst to best, you know Going for the One is one of my favorites. I think it made number 3, only being beaten out by Tales of a Topographic Ocean and Close to the Edge. Okay. Yeah, I really like Going for the Edge. If you could listen to one album for the first time again, what would it be? You know what? I was having a conversation with my dad about this. And there are a few albums that I love that I listened to for the first time, but there's a lot of albums that I love that I never had the first time listen. Because I don't remember what it was, because I've listened to them throughout my entire life. Like, there is no point in my life where I was without albums like Dark Side of the Moon, like Led Zeppelin 4, like trying to think of Night at the Opera, right? Like, these albums, I don't remember the first time I listened to those albums because they've been in my life my whole entire life. Whereas, I do remember the first time I heard Selling England by the Pound. I do remember the first time I listened to Close to the Edge. I do remember the first time I listened to, like, In the Core of the Crimson King. But I don't remember a time in my life when I didn't know of The Dark Side of the Moon. So I think I would do The Dark Side of the Moon, because that is a fantastic question. Just a fantastic question. Really, really good. Yeah. That was great. I love that. Blackfield 5 is an example of corny lyrics. Yeah, okay. Going for the One overrated. Only Awaken is... That's fair. I mean, I do see where you can see, like, it's being overrated, but, like, I love the smaller moments off of that album. Like, Turn of the Century is probably my favorite song off of that album, even though Awaken is so good. We're talking about Going for the One in that sense. Corny does not necessarily equal bad. I agree. I full-heartedly agree. Okay, here's the part. I love this. Gonna get a little build up here. I mean, I'm gonna lose my monetization because of this. But here's the key change. Here it is. Ready? And then we go right into this section here. Like, this is such a stark contrast of all the things that came before this. Like, I could talk endlessly about, like, all the things that are going on in this song right now. I love that lyric. I don't want to be lonely, I just want to be alone. As an introvert, I just so identify. Like, it's one of those, do I feel seen? I feel very seen right now. Oh, boy. Okay. Diorama is magic. Okay, I'm glad that other people are loving some diorama here with some Silverchair. Let's see here. I would love to see a full live stream of Storm Corrosion. Ooh, well, I mean, if you donate to my Patreon down below, you can make that happen. Let's see here. Okay, good. We're talking about King Sax. Yeah, honestly, I don't want to like sugarcoat that. It may just not be for me. I mean, I do remember there was one song off of that set where the guy was talking quite a bit about it's a shame not doing what you love to do for your living or something along those. But like at the same time, my buddy and I were kind of looking at each other. It's like, well, there's also the practicality and just like, yeah, we would love to do what we love to do, but feasibility and like we still got to put money, like we gotta put food on our tables and a roof over our heads. So anyway, general, what albums are better? But I guess I do think in general other albums are better, but I guess I just enjoy it on its own. Good album, but you are right to an extent. Okay, I guess he's talking about that. Still good, consider it is only reaction. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the Mannheim Steamroller. Again, love Silverchair. Thank you for bringing that up. I know that I probably got demonetized because of that, but it's okay because it was worth it. We're going to start back up with Angels on High. We're going to play this off to the end. We're going to go until 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time before I call it a night. Because we're going to go the full 2 hours here. Yeah. Yeah, Silverchair. Miss them so much. Oh man. Diorama has a B-side song. I don't remember the name. It's incredible. Yeah. What is your opinion on the weird guitar solo in Counting Out Time by Genesis? I love it. I love it so much. It's so good. That's Steve Vackett. Like, it's a perfect blend of that weirdness that Peter Gabriel was flirting with a little bit, because he also did quite a bit of that on his solo record as well, with like Excuse Me and all that. But I just love that little fun part because it's perfect in like the context of the song as well, right? Like he's trying to have a sexy time with a woman of choice. And so he's having a blast, but she's just like, okay, cool. That's great. So yeah, that's cool. Let's see here. More love for Silverchair. Oh man, that's great. To have heard the B-side, look it up. Referring to Over My Head. Interesting. Okay. If you like Leprous, Opeth, Dream Theater, Riverside, then you should check out Surdis. Say oh man, you guys are making me pronounce some hard words here. Balerian Band, which means heart. The bass line on that album is killer. Jean Mung is a baby compared. Okay. I have to see the review of Timelessness someday. Yeah, I mean, if you donate to my Patreon, you could make that happen. Let's see here. It's called Asylum. It would be one of the best on Diorama if it was in it. Ooh, I might have to check out Asylum then, because I mean, I do enjoy Silverchair on that. Do you like the disassociative albums as well? I don't know. Any wonderful albums that are just a little too long? Swan soundtrack for the blind is sort of like that, but it's the odd ambient pieces that can get Yeah, there's a few. I mean, I found a lot of albums this year um, had, and even last year as well, my enjoyment of them had decreased because there was just so much on them. Um, like a lot of my favorite albums this year have been very short. And we're looking at anything that's less than 40 minutes, like that kind of short. But yeah, definitely an album can get weighed down for being too long. I'm trying to think of a really, really good example. Because most of the time, if it's too long, I usually just tune it out. And that's probably why I can't really grab one. Ooh, starting to get past my bedtime, guys. Yeah, but I do see what you mean. Let's see here. Am I the only... Oops, it keeps... Am I the only person who thinks the original guitar solo from The Knife is one of the greatest of all time? I also find Hackett's solo on Genesis Live somewhat bland in comparison. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to the original. Because I do love Anthony Phillips. You know, I have a lot of his private works, or I think they were called like private parts, but I didn't want to say that. I also really love The Goose and the Ghost. Really, really like his more atmospheric sound, much more like medieval sound. Yeah. They're talking about somebody who says that Diorama is their favorite album ever. Man's got taste, whoever that is. Yeah, listen to Asylum to remember the magic. Thank me later. Okay, I'll do my best to remember that. I'll probably forget. You likely don't know the Disassociative album then. I would highly endorse checking it out. I'll do my best to remember. Will you ever explain the plot of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, or is it too abstract? Also, do you think Hairless Heart is Rail's first drug trip? So... I can explain it to what I can remember, because it's been quite a bit. Now, do I have it? Yeah, so just give me 1 second. There is... There it is. Come here. This way up here. Don't... Okay. Whew. There is a box set that I got way back in high school. The Genesis Archive. I don't know if everybody can see that. It's got a... Ooh, man, the binding on this. It's basically just 4 discs. The first 2 are a Genesis recreation. Well, half of it is Peter Gabriel re-recording his vocal works of a complete live set of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. So some of it is the live material, other is re-recording. And then... the third disc is actually the Rainbow performance, as well as other conglomerations on there. And then the fourth one is a lot of like demos, and it's mainly kind of like from Genesis to Revelation, but a lot of that early stuff as well. The binding of this is horrific, by the way, because it's mainly just glue. So the book of this will eventually fall apart. But what I like from this... Oh, wow, it's got a HMV receipt in here, because I... anyway, what I love about this is it does go into the recording of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Actually has Peter Gabriel recounting a little bit of the tale of Rail and what happens within this kind of thing. So essentially, Rail, now whether or not it's a drug-induced trip or whether or not it's a fairy tale that actually kind of happens, is... either transport, like this big massive wool like substance falls over New York City, and Rail, the main character, kind of like wakes up in this alternative reality thing, and it's just his adventure throughout this area, trying to find his brother John, trying to figure out his way around this area. And, you know, at first, like the, you know, when he first wakes up, it's him in this cage and he sees his brother coming through. And then from that point on, he's just like, wait, that's not quite right. Like, that is my brother, but that's not my brother. Like, I don't understand. And so there's a lot of flashbacks as well while he's doing this, where you have, you know, his first sexual encounter with Counting Out Time, Hairless Heart. See, for me, Hairless Heart is not necessarily a drug-induced thing, but it's him maturing and feeling love for the first time, and then him wanting to express love and wanting to express it in the best ability, which is the hairless heart, and realizing that sometimes, like for me, it's the perfect metaphor for what you feel and not having the proper way to express what you feel. So hairless heart is him feeling all these emotions, and then counting out time is him not being able to properly express himself, and getting the words from this erogenous zones book. So he's using the words from another person, but realizing that because it's not his words, that's where he failed. That's kind of where I'm, at least within that section. And so going further and further underground in this alternative New York, going more and more underground and losing bearing on where he is. Now this is just like the strictly narrative of the show, not necessarily like the metaphors that come within it. And meeting all these different people, like coming to the Chamber of 32 Doors, meeting up with Willie Light Lilith, she being blind, and meeting him to the oh shoot, what's his face? This is what happens when you don't listen to an album for years and years and years. Whatever his name is. I know they've got... there we go. Here Comes the Supernatural and Arithmetic. Yeah, that's the guy. Then running into the Lamia. Those snake-like women who pleasure him and then eventually wither and die, and then coming into the colony of the Slippermen. At this point, I'm just basically recounting the songs, right? And so it's kind of just his journey throughout this Alice in Wonderland way, like this underground world. And then eventually meeting up with Rail, or not Rail, but his brother, and then finding out that really he was looking for himself this whole time. So it's very metaphorical. Like the whole thing is incredibly metaphorical. Wow, that was a lot. Yeah, you can dive really deep into The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, and you can interpret it in a whole lot of different ways. Like I said, you can just interpret it straight up linearly of like what happens in the story. And the one good thing about the story is that it is very linear, so you can follow along with Rail and see like, okay, this is what happens now. Okay, now this is what happens now. And each one kind of goes right to the next one. Yeah, the other way is like extremely metaphorical. Right? Like I had just said about the pairing of a hairless heart and counting out time. The metaphor between the Lamia and the colony of Slippermen being like, indulging yourself in the pleasures, and then the, it's way, way before the times of AIDS, but you could draw the comparison of, having those sexual pleasures and then ending up as this grotesque creature with the infections, and then essentially having to chop off your member because of the infection that happened, and then becoming a sexless individual. So like you can dive in and really, really talk about The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway very, very heavily. All right, I'm going to jump back up to see what we've got here, because I already talked quite a bit. Oh boy. Okay. Let's see. Where did I leave off? I just listened to Across the Night for the first time. I'll definitely, go and check it out. I really, really like Across the Night. And if you can, listen to the live performance, because the live performance is fantastic. And yeah, Anthony Phillips is super underrated. I wish the man didn't have quite as much crippling anxiety. I definitely identify with that, and I totally don't, I don't knock him for that. I 100% understand what he's going through in that sense. But yeah, his solo career, like, he doesn't stop. Ocean Size was underrated. Don't know if anyone has heard Frames in person. Yeah. That's the one, Ocean Size Frames. Everybody, I did a live stream of Ocean Size Frames. The issue with Lamb Lies Down on Broadway is that it's all allegorical. I mean, yeah, you can look at it that way, but I also like just the story. It's very much an Alice in Wonderland story. And you can also see that it's, a person trying to find himself. And I mean, you can read any good work of art as being allegorical, but it's also fantastic in that it's also a very intriguing and interesting linear story. Yeah. If you were a piece of music, Francois, if I was a piece of music, are you asking like what would I be if I was a piece of music? If I were a piece of music, I'd probably be the there's a part of me that wants to say The Philosophy of the World by the Shags, which I've already mentioned, because it's ill thought out, best intentions, no training, just kind of there you go. It's like, okay, I guess, and then it just turns into a giant pile of garbage. But I need to give myself a little bit more credit. I need to stop joking so much, self-terrorizing, and start building myself back up. So I probably, if I were a piece of music, one of my favorite pieces of all time is Beethoven's Sixth Symphony. I know that's extremely boisterous of me and like overstated and whatnot, but I just like where that goes. It does cover a lot of my like what I kind of want to set out for my life. That's probably where I'd go. Yeah. Let's see here. Frames. Talking about Frames. Frames is the best album nobody knows about. Well, luckily over here, we know about Frames, right? I did a full live stream of it, and I fell in love with it. So we know about it. You found the right people. Let's go back up. Let's see here. Do I know Amnesiac? Not as good as Kid A. Oh, do I like Amnesiac? Yeah, I'm pretty much great. I agree with you exactly. It's not as good as Kid A, but some people seem to love it and think it's and some think it's boring. I'm more in the camp that, like, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Amnesiac. I much prefer Kid A myself. Yeah, I feel like it's not quite as well thought out. I don't feel like it's quite as well constructed. I feel like it was a little bit of a rush job. But yeah. Frames and everyone into position sometimes. Okay, people are talking. I'm loving the conversation that's going on there. Yeah, maybe I'll do a review of Diorama one day. Oh, don't worry. I get off my way too much. Hello, my Noddy Doddy. Hello, Mr. Crinkle. Excellent. Anthony Phillips is a... Oops. Let's see here. I'm going to show that... Weird rate your music rates curtains a bit higher than needed. Okay. Oh, I think I might have finally caught up, which is good because I've only got about 2 minutes left. I already answered who would win between Rail and Benny the Bouncer. Maybe you can do everyone into position at some point. Maybe somebody wants to donate. We know Frames, but in the real world, no. Yes, I do understand. Like I'm kind of in that same boat where like I have a very limited amount of like in real life friends that know about my music, and they get very annoyed and bothered whenever I start talking about my prog, which is why I started this channel in the first place. So yeah. Anyway, I think this is a good time to wrap things up. Thank you to everybody who's come out and supported me. This was a great Q&A. I'm going to pop back down and thank all my patrons. Jeffrey, again, you're number one right now just because I haven't changed this. I haven't had a new patron since, so you're the one that's on here as well. Thank you to the first Matthew Zealot. He was one of the first and one of the... kind of blew me away right at the beginning because I was like, oh, I don't know if anybody's really going to donate to me, and he just like right out of the gates like, yes, you deserve it. So I was like, oh wow. As well as Aiden, Andreas, Austin, Isaac, Rick, Kevin, Ted, Bryson, Hamulin, Chris, Joggintrum, GRV Rush 2112, Joseph, Charles, Brian, Mark, Brian, another Brian, Kevin, and Axel. You guys are amazing. Everybody on this has been amazing, and thank you all for getting me up to 10,000. Man, what a ride so far, right? And so the other thing that I will be doing once the weather gets a little bit warmer here in Toronto, I'm going to be doing a video where I'm dancing around Toronto as a thank you. So look out for that probably in the spring, or if we get a really nice weekend or two here in Toronto before the big snow and desolation of winter hits. So that'll be coming out very, very shortly. And yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't believe I'm already at 10,000. Oof. So yeah, I mean, when I remember when I passed 1,000, and I'm like, oh my gosh, 1,000, and then I 10 times that, and then I guess the next big 10 times is 100,000, and then I get a fancy plaque. Oh man, help Notes get a fancy plaque with 100,000 now. I mean, 10,000 is much more than I ever thought I was going to get, so I'm glad that I got here. So yeah. So yeah, thank you to all my patrons. If you want to contribute and have your name next to all these amazing and awesome people, I left the link down below. As I mentioned before, I'm going to be changing up those rates in the new year. So if you want to jump in before the rates change, then do that. All right, I'm going to bring that down. You're going to see this face, and we're going to count things off because we are now 2 hours in, and I wanted to do that. So yeah, take care, everybody. Be sure to love one another and keep all the, there's a saying that I always love, which is, and I think Mike Portnoy even mentioned this in one of his AA suites. We seek to understand, not to be understood. And so I think if we kind of take that to heart, I think, I think it'll be all good. So yeah, I guess until the next one, thank you guys entirely so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until the next big one, Notes out.